Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jose.
And today we're talking about Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore. The third in the Fantastic Beasts series. So we previously covered the Crimes of Grindelwald in 2018, and the first film was out before we started in the podcast. This is the kind of universe built out of Harry Potter. So J.K. Rowling extended the Harry Potter world in these books and now these films to take in America, a different wizarding culture, a political wizarding world. It might be instructive to think about the last film, because we went back and listened to the previous podcast, and so much of what we talked about on that previous podcast I think comes up again here. One of those things being that the overall goal that everyone has, which is essentially to stop Grindelwald, who wants to take over the wizarding world and start a war with muggles, non-wizarding folk, is quite clear, but all of the details are vague, stupid, not thought through. I mean, the first hour of this film, essentially, maybe more than an hour, ends with all the characters, all of our heroes, meeting up in Hogwarts and basically literally saying, we've achieved nothing at this point except things have got a bit worse. A huge waste of time that had no particular goal, no aim. It's just wasted time. It's bizarre.
I think it's very bad storytelling, because there is a lack of clarity. It could all be efficient. There's a lot of space devoted to moralizing or editorializing on character and things, usually with a smug attitude towards it if they're the good guys, right? I mean, I think that was indicative of the ending as well. Like, it didn't end. You thought, when is it going to end? Like, should have ended, right? And really, it's not ending because you just want editorializing, platitudes on, the people, really, which the audience does not need. I really don't know why they've put that there. But actually, that's a characteristic in the film as a whole. Who's the muggle? What's his name? Kowalski, right? So much is devoted to what a good heart he has, what a good person he is. Why he's like, that. You've seen the other films, and actually, you don't need to know that anyway, really. Like, so all of that is just like completely unnecessary. And I think the film is stupid in the sense that, the obvious pleasures, there's two things that the film, I think, has to get right. Right? One is a world that connects to Hogwarts, yeah? Yeah, because everybody remembers all of that with pleasure. It's the world of wizardry and the fantastic things that could be done with it, right? And the other one is the Fantastic Beasts. You want to see these beasts doing fantastic things or being fantastic. And actually, there's very little of that. I mean, I thought at least as a sop to the audience, when they go into Hogwarts, there would have been some sweeping camera into Hogwarts so you can remember what it's like. Or there might have been a game of Quidditch being played. Or just
or you'd hear the theme,
Yeah, something, right? But no, right? So I just think it's stupid not to have taken those things on board, particularly when it's replaced with, the most stupid things. I mean, that whole thing where Newt goes to save his brother and he's got to dance with a crab, lobster, whatever they are.
Didn't mind that.
Oh, I thought it was just
Didn't mind that. That's one of the few things in the film that I felt had any charm. When he goes into that crabby stance and starts waddling from side to side. It's a little bit of fun. It's a little bit of fun and it's played for a laugh, and I really didn't mind it. Well, so much of the rest of the film is so self-serious and dark. I mean, visually dark. Not just, dark in terms of fates and plots and all that kind of stuff. Visually dull to look at. At least those crabs were bright red.
Not bright enough. I
know, but
I think it was an interesting idea, but again, as the execution was so bad, I didn't find it funny and I didn't find it charming. I mean, I could see that the film was aiming for that, but it certainly didn't succeed with me, really.
No.
So I thought, there was a real problem. Yeah, I mean, I think the whole kind of Nazi thing as well, like
Grindelwald's people. I mean, well, they're all German. And it really couldn't be more obvious. They're all German and they're there to take over the world. And his people are literally dressed as the Gestapo.
I know. Which, again, I think it's a mistake. I mean, I don't have a problem with them borrowing Nazi imagery, right? But I would have liked them to have done something more imaginative with it and not restricted so much to Germany, really. I think that's almost offensive, really. I'd be curious to know what people in Germany think. So, I mean, I'm trying to think. The only thing that I liked about it was there's an overall thread of Dumbledore and...
his brother.
No, Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh, excuse me, Grindelwald.
And Grindelwald having a blood tie that they can't act against each other because when they were young they were lovers and madly in love with each other, and they made this blood
Pact.
So actually I think that, you know, for a film like this to begin with the recounting of this love story between two men and, you know, kind of what led to it, I really like that, though I understand it's being cut for China.
Wow.
So but actually I think the film is almost scared of it, because really there is a kind of a tragedy that underlies this film, really, which is about, you know, this relationship that's over, you know, one can't act against it, that's really paralyzing people, and that finally an act of conscience breaks through, right? So I think something really quite marvelous could have been done with that, actually.
It also has more than a hint of the trope of the sad, lonely gay man pining.
Yes.
You know, so clearly the love that Dumbledore had at least for Grindelwald, is very real and very, very keenly felt. And he feels the loss of Grindelwald, but he doesn't then, you know, go to make other connections or seek to. And it ends with this thing. So this is kind of a spoiler because it's the last scene of the film, but it's after the climax. Eventually, you've got Kowalski, the Muggle, and Queenie, who's magic, getting married, and it's this happy scene to end the thing with, and everyone's there having a lovely time, and Dumbledore doesn't go in. He sits outside, he walks off into the snow on his own, he doesn't join the party, and it's like there's no reason for him to walk off on his own, but there's this atmosphere of his deliberate loneliness.
I don't mind that. Kind of, you know, he's older than the others, and, you know, he's got, you know, other responsibility, and he's lost something, right? Like, you know, so I mean, I
think it has that.
I take your point, right? But I didn't mind that.
His the loss of his love, essentially, he responds to with this stoicness, this refusal. It's not shown as refusal, because it's not shown as like there are other options for him that he rejects, but that a romantic kind of dimension no longer exists in his life is, I think, part of that trope.
Well, I think you see him alone, and, you know, but I don't know, people go speak to him outside, right? So he is loved in a way.
Yes, yeah.
So I didn't mind that. I mean, what I minded was it's very bad storytelling. The action was very badly filmed. Again, I thought the thing with the crabs, you know, when you have the other monsters eating stuff, I mean, that should have been more exciting.
Should all have been executed better. And in fact, that goes to the previous podcast. What your exact criticism, one of them, was I like the conceptualization, I don't like the execution. The ideas aren't bad.
No.
The ideas aren't bad, but they're not very well done. Again, this is David Yates directing, who directed the previous one, I think the one before that, and several Harry Potter films. And it's just, he's the kind of... On the last podcast, I referred to him as a yes man, and that's not knowing anything about him, but it comes across as a yes man type of director, where it's just getting the plot filmed, essentially, with not enough creativity or visual beauty. It has its moments. The last film had its moments too, and we talked about them, but they are only moments.
Well, they're moments, and they're moments that the film doesn't build up on, because one of the things that I really like very much is, again, was it Kowalski?
Kowalski.
Yeah. You know, I love that character. I love the actor playing him, and you know, he was very charming when you first saw him, right? And you'd think that they would build on that, because actually that was almost like a little star moment, somebody making something of that part.
Yeah,
in a way that was really audience pleasing. They throw it away in this film. They don't really give him any of those moments, right? Or actually, they kind of do, but they don't work.
They give him quite a lot to do.
Yeah,
and he has a fairly important role in the story. I mean, he's an important part of that gang. Put it that way. And actually, I think he probably had less to do in the previous film, and I wanted more of him. He is fun to see, and he is charming, and some of the comedy he gets to play is quite broad, but I don't mind it.
No, I don't mind broad comedy, but I think it doesn't pay off. Like, you know, there was an effervescence, and in the last film, and also he made you laugh and so on. Whereas this, you could see the actor's just as good, but actually what he's given to do and how it's filmed and the timing of it all is really the film's fault, and they waste him. I did I love Jude Law, and actually I love Jude Law with Mitz Mickelson. I think they're very good together. Mitz Mickelson.
I like Jude Law an awful lot, and we liked him in the previous one. And he does have that avuncular, knowledgeable, wise thing going on. What was happening with his accent in this, I don't understand, and I don't remember it being a problem before, where he basically speaks like Jude Law, except his R's. He does this with his R's. And I can't understand why. And it makes me think that maybe he's trying to imitate Richard Harris or Michael Gambon, who played Dumbledore in the Harry Potter films as an old man, because obviously he's playing the young version. But I don't remember them speaking like that, and I don't remember Jude Law having spoken like that before. It doesn't seem to make much sense. It's a weird decision. I wouldn't mind him just speaking like Jude Law.
Yeah, it would be a Richard Harris thing, though. I mean, Richard Harris did. It
seems to me the model of doing that is what Ewan McGregor did in the Star Wars films, because Alec Guinness was this iconic performance as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then playing him as a younger one. How's he going to do this? And what Ewan McGregor did was really evoke him without imitating him. He made. You can totally see the continuity between Ewan McGregor's and Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan Kenobi's, but he is his own character still, and he plays it in a way that is embodied in all of that. That's not what's going on here, and I don't even think that the Harris stroke Gambon Dumbledore is iconic enough to warrant trying to imitate. Just play Jude Law.
I must say, I didn't pick up on that, and I didn't have a problem with it. I thought he was lovely. I really enjoyed watching him. And, that was true. I mean, I thought the actors, on the whole, came off very well in this, really, because I thought Ezra Miller is filmed, just at his most beautiful. I've never seen him, kind of look this beautiful, really. He made an impression. Your eye was drawn to him. I'm getting really sick of Eric Redmayne doing this "oh shucks, shy" thing, And I was thinking, actually, the person who most closely resembles him is like a young Jimmy Stewart. But Jimmy Stewart would have some bite, right, and some more passion. He would vary that performance more. Jimmy Stewart was a much greater actor. So this is getting. I mean, it's becoming a kind of shtick. Yeah. If you want to do an Eddie Redmayne imitation, you could now do it in like 3 moves, right? Then they all kind of involve a tilt of the head and a doleful look.
He's playing a character here, and he's playing someone who, again, we've previously said, is essentially on the autistic spectrum, and at the very least has difficulty or nervousness engaging with people socially, whereas with his animals, he's engaging, because, there's that thing of he's cool with the animals, he loves his animals, and he gets on with them, he touches them, and he's with them, and with people, it's much more difficult. And I really feel that in his character. I do like him. I do think that part of what makes Eddie Redmayne work for me in this is that he is so part of the ensemble. And were he given... I mean, he is still essentially the main character, but it's very much an ensemble story. And were he given more prominence above everybody else, it would be harder to take him. As it is, he's just one of the gang, and so he doesn't become too much.
My favourite performance was actually the girlfriend of
Queenie.
I love Queenie, and I love that actress. And actually, it's a very, imaginative performance, really. It's very stylized, with a kind of a high but soft-speaking voice, right?
Alison Sudol plays Queenie.
Yeah, I thought she was wonderful.
Yes. I had a problem with Mads Mikkelsen, frankly. So the reason that he's been cast as Grindelwald is because previously that role was played by Johnny Depp. And then Johnny Depp had this civil case in court.
He's been accused of being a wife beater.
Yeah, so the Sun, I think, wrote about him being a wife beater. His wife was Amber Heard. And he sued them unsuccessfully for defamation. He lost on appeal, and when that was all kind of finalised, it became you can't continue in this role, despite the fact there is another problematic person, which is J.K. Rowling. But there's no film happening without J.K. Rowling because it's her story overall.
Also, she's not you know.
No, it's not.
I mean,
no.
writers are never given that kind of prominence in a film anyway, right?
Well, I think it's different with J.K. Rowling because it's her. She's huge, and so. But I think the main difference is that saying things that people find very unsavoury about trans people is not the same as essentially. I could say in quotes essentially being found substantially guilty of being a wife beater, and being unable to defend himself against that claim in the papers. It's kind of physical sort of violence is a more serious thing. That's why Mads Mikkelsen's been cast, and there's no attempt to say that he's changed his face or something. He's just a new actor in the role,
and that's fine. That works for me.
The problem I had with him is that I think he's charmless in the role. I like Mads Mikkelsen in so many things, and the one time in this where he really made sense was when he's in that pool bringing that creature back to life and doing kind of dark magic on it, because I thought, wow, that's like, it's occulty, and that he made sense for me there. His kind of serious darkness made sense for me, but what he lacks that Johnny Depp had brought before and would have brought again is charm and charisma to being the evil,
well, that's true, though. I kind of
I just think he's lacking, that's all.
Yeah, no, I liked him. And actually I was trying, because I like Johnny Depp as well, but there's something both very florid and very musty about his recent performances. And actually, because this is the film in which they really highlight the relationship with Dumbledore, I was glad that Johnny Depp didn't do it. Yeah, I think it would have been OTT bringing a bit of Keith Richards and a bit of like marijuana into the role, and I thought, let Mads do it. Well,
I don't know that we had a problem with him in the previous film.
No, I didn't.
Even you. So I don't know that would have been a problem necessarily. But I don't think it's a role that can't be recast. He didn't make it his own to that extent. I also think it could have been recast better. That's all.
I liked Mads Mikkelsen, and I liked the scenes at the beginning very much, actually, and even the scene at the end, where he's kind of looking, at Dumbledore as he goes into the sphere. I liked it, and I like him very much, Mads Mikkelsen. So that wasn't a problem with me. And again, I'm trying to think: is this a problem with the actors, or is this a problem with the writing or the editorializing? Like, I didn't like. What's her name? The woman with the books. Yeah.
That's Jessica Williams, who I know from The Daily Show from several years ago. I didn't know her as an actor, really. Yes. But she is in this.
I thought I didn't.
Yes, she's well. I think she has a sense of that floridness. She overdoes her accent. Again, you can see how she's trying to make that character charming and kooky. It's not working.
Yeah. And these are just kind of minor things that we're picking on because, the main problem with this film is that it's lost sight of what it's about and what the audience's pleasure in this world and these people are, which I think, it's the world of magic and the world of these fantastic beasts, right? So that's what should have been highlighted. And we get too little of that, whilst at the same time suffering from a lack of clarity in the story, right? Kind of, it's really over-egging the pudding to such an extent that you lose sight of what the main ingredients are.
The storytelling is the biggest problem by far for me, because the film doesn't assume so much knowledge on your part that it won't remind you of things that have gone before, including a long scene where Jessica Williams essentially recounts every part of Kowalski's story, as if to just remind the audience why he's there and what he's doing. It's kind of ridiculous. The one thing it doesn't ever remind you of is why you should care about any of this, and what are any real stakes other than just the fate of the worlds, which isn't interesting enough. And like I say, with that first half of the film, you go, okay, well, they're going off to this dinner, and someone's going off here, and he's got captured, so he goes off to find him, and it's apart from when Newt goes off to save his brother, which is quite obvious why he's doing that. He's been captured. I couldn't understand why they were at that dinner. I must have missed a line of dialogue as to what was important. Because then what actually happens at that dinner is, so Jessica Williams and Kowalski have gone there, And Kowalski essentially seems to be acting of his own accord, threatening Mads Mikkelsen because he's got Queenie and he's let her go and so on. And so what happens there seems to be so they say right at the start, let's have no plan or loads of plans because Grindelwald can see slightly into the future every now and again. So if we have plans, he will be able to tell what they are. So let's improvise and go crazy, which essentially is seems to be giving the writers carte blanche to say we don't need to set anything up. We don't need to give you expectations, and because then Grindelwald will know.
But that's just so lazy.
It is so lazy, and so what happens at that dinner is you've not been told anything. Whatever they seem to know, you don't have any idea of. And like I say, it becomes this kind of improvisation that they have to get themselves out of. And it's the most insulting thing when everyone shows up back at Hogwarts and they say, we've achieved nothing. They literally say that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't find that offensive because, there could be a difference between what the characters say and what is actually the case. And actually, it's that difference of differential knowledges between the characters that the film could have done something kind of rich and exciting with. So I think, had the film clarified the through line, whilst adding layers, that maybe each character had different perception of what was going on that we, the audience, understood, right? That would have made for a much better and richer film, because one of the problems with this film is how thin it is, right? That whole scene where they go into the dinner, my God, they could have just added a few spins, right? have that main German thug be in love with one of the other gang, or just adds, it's very easy to set up, those tensions, right, between the characters and the situation, and our knowledge of that. It would have been super simple to do, and it would have added something. The thing is that this feels like too one-note throughout.
There's a great deal of blandness that runs throughout the entire film. Things are done without charm throughout. Action scenes are set up like it does try to set up certain things, particularly this thing about replicating the case. So Newt's case, where he keeps all his animals, is what they're going to use to get this special animal to this election. And this animal, even though it's not actually really been set up that this animal is going to be important for the election until a bit too late, I think. They still have to smuggle this animal in because that's going to help make things right, okay? But the baddies know about this animal, they know about this case, so they replicate the case and they say, we're all going to carry a case. Which is fine, that's a great setup for smuggling a thing in, We don't even know which one's the right case, and 5 of these are decoys. But then it doesn't go on to make enough of that. So, we have this scene where they are being followed. You see Gestapo on the rooftops like ninjas following them.
The fight with the wands was so stupid.
and it's all done without any hint of tension or charm or
surprise. I mean, you could have had like a drum roll moment after each case is open and you realize it's not that one, but nothing. It's just kind of really flaccid filmmaking.
It's super flaccid. And nothing about the election makes any sense. I mean, the thing that I had a real problem with, the election takes place in Bhutan up this long set of stone steps to a temple. And why Newt is allowed to run up those steps with no one having stopped or anything makes no sense. It's one of these things that's just in the wizarding world, you could just apparently get away with whatever you want. But also go on.
I expected that the brother of Lita Lestrange or whatever, just because of the way he looks, that there would be some connection between him and the election being in Bhutan, right? But no, nothing.
Is that the black fella who's
the Indian-looking man? Yeah.
Is it an Indian-looking man?
Well, I thought yes.
Are you talking about the man who has his memory?
Yes.
Yeah. I think he's sort of Afro-Caribbean, as it were.
Oh, right. Okay. I thought he was South Asian.
Oh, right. Maybe he is.
So and therefore I thought that there must be like some relation between Bhutan and him having crossed over to the dark side, so to speak. But no, I mean, if there was something, I missed it.
I had a real problem with his character because he's sent in, again, he's part of Dumbledore's troop, and he's sent into Grindelwald's lot as a spy. And he goes there and he announces himself as a spy and says, I've been sent here by Dumbledore to spy on you, what do you want me to do? Which is clearly part of the plan or lack of plan. And because Queenie can read minds, she says, yes, he's telling the truth, but also he blames you for the death of his sister, and he thinks about revenge on you every single day. And so Grindelwald puts his wand to the guy's temple and removes the memory. And this thing in the Harry Potter universe, memories are these kind of long, glowing white strands. and it's a. I mean, you don't. I don't think you've given enough in the character to care about, but on paper, it's a sad and it's a very sad moment, quite a beautiful, tragic moment that every memory of his sister is being removed from him by the man who killed him,
and it's never replaced.
Nothing comes back about that.
Well, actually, I had two problems with that. Because I think you're missing an important component of that. Because if I remember correctly, what Queenie says is, he really supports your cause. Yeah, but
that's right. He believes in you.
Yeah. So he believes in you. That's right. So then, actually, what you get later is the memory is removed, but actually, this believing in him, which is how does that show up, right?
Because ultimately he betrays him.
Yeah, he goes with Dumbledore.
Where did that come from?
Exactly.
Well, unless I suppose I'm maybe you're meeting the film more than halfway, because Queenie clearly has her doubts. You see that basically from the start, because she's there also. She's sent to spy on Ezra Miller's character, and she says, "I am doing that, but I'm not telling him everything."
Yeah.
So she has her doubts from the start. So maybe she's also lying a little bit to him.
But it would be good to signal that to the audience in some way, right?
Yeah,
that would make everything more interesting.
Yeah, I'm having to meet the film more than halfway in saying that's what's happening here.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we've gone enough of, this is like...
Yeah, it's just not very good. It's funny, after the last film I said I would be interested in seeing this one, and I don't know why I said that, because I wasn't that impressed with the last one.
No.
Neither was I. And it's not a story that I'm interested in keeping up. The thing about Harry Potter was I did want to know what would happen in the next film. Because I got 200 pages into the 5th book when I was...
Was that the 900-page one?
Yeah, it was one of the first really long ones. And I guess I must have been 15 years old maybe when it came out. And 200 pages into that book, the previous 4 had been great. All that had happened was that a painting in a house had shouted at people, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing this, I'll give up here. But I did want to know still what would happen ultimately. I was invested in those characters, and so I kept seeing those films despite the fact they were equally bland, really. I had a little bit more to them. I think the characters, generally speaking, were more interesting. This, I don't know why I was interested in seeing this. I don't know. Well, I wasn't. Well, at the time, I said I was. And then when you said, let's go and see this, I said, are you punishing me for something?
Yes. So, I'm glad, I'm glad we saw it in a way. It was definitely worth thinking up. And I like seeing the actors. I just think it's a pity that, even in a commercial sense, such an important property is being treated so cavalierly. I mean, I think it's about time that they give this thing to a better, more imaginative filmmaker, and that they treat it with the respect that Marvel treats its films. Yeah, you want to hire somebody really dazzling to kind of attempt something dazzling with this, because, it can certainly offer it, right? So this is just a failure of skill and imagination, I think. So anyway, this is a huge disappointment.
Yeah, if you're expecting something.
Well, we weren't expecting much, and it was still a huge disappointment. Anyway, I think that's enough. Thank you all very much for listening. We're eavesdropping at the movies, and we are on
Apple Podcasts, Audible, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. On social media, we're on Facebook and Twitter, and the website is eavesdroppingatthemovies.com.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.